I never thought I would cheat on my partner. I was always the loyal type, and cheating seemed like a despicable thing to do. But sometimes life takes unexpected turns, and you find yourself in situations you never imagined. It all started when I ran into my first love, Sarah, at a coffee shop. We hadn't seen each other in years, and I was surprised to see how much she had changed. She was still beautiful, but there was a sadness in her eyes that wasn't there before. We caught up over coffee, and I found out that she had just gone through a tough breakup. She was vulnerable, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of protectiveness over her. We exchanged numbers and promised to keep in touch. Over the next few weeks, we talked more and more, and I found myself drawn to her again. We shared our deepest fears and desires, and I realized that I still had feelings for her. I knew it was wrong to cheat, but I couldn't resist the temptation. One night, we met up at a bar. We had a few too many drinks, and before I knew it, we were making out in the back of my car. It felt wrong, but it also felt so right. We both knew it was a mistake, but we couldn't help ourselves. We agreed to keep our encounter a secret, but it wasn't long before my partner found out. She was devastated, and I was consumed by guilt. I had betrayed her trust, and I knew there was no excuse for what I had done. I tried to make things right, but it was too late. My partner couldn't forgive me, and we eventually broke up. I was left alone with my thoughts, and I realized that cheating had been a huge mistake. I had lost someone I loved because of my own selfishness. As for Sarah, we drifted apart again after our brief affair. I realized that our connection was based on nostalgia and old feelings, but it wasn't enough to sustain a real relationship. I had to accept that sometimes first love is just a memory, and it's better to cherish it for what it was rather than try to relive it. In the end, I learned a hard lesson about the consequences of cheating. I will never forget the pain I caused my partner, and I will always regret my actions. But I also learned that sometimes the unexpected encounters in life can lead us down paths we never intended to take. It's up to us to choose the right path, even when it's the harder one. It was supposed to be a night of celebration and fun. The bachelorette party had been planned for months, and everyone was excited to see the bride-to-be off in style. But what started as a night of laughter and dancing turned into a nightmare that no one could have predicted. The bride, Rachel, had been dating her fiancé, Tom, for 3 years. They were the picture-perfect couple, always holding hands and smiling at each other. Rachel was a sweet and caring person, loved by all her friends. And Tom was the perfect match for her, or so it seemed. On the night of the bachelorette party, Rachel and her friends hit the town, dressed to impress and ready to party. They went to a few bars, danced, took shots, and laughed until their cheeks hurt. As the night wore on, Rachel's friends began to notice that she was getting increasingly drunk and flirty with the men around her. At around 1 a.m., the group stumbled into a hotel room that Rachel had rented for the night. They were all exhausted and ready to pass out, but Rachel was still buzzing with energy. She suggested they play a game of truth or dare, and her friends reluctantly agreed. As the game progressed, the dares became more and more risque. Rachel was dared to kiss one of her friends, and she did. Then she was dared to take off her shirt, and she did. Finally, she was dared to call Tom and tell him that she loved him, which she did, albeit slurring her words. After the call, Rachel's friends thought it was time for her to go to bed. They tucked her in and said their goodnights, but one of them couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She decided to check on Rachel one more time before leaving. When she opened the door to the room, she couldn't believe what she saw. Rachel was in bed with a man, and it wasn't one of her friends. The room was silent as everyone tried to process what was happening. Rachel's friend, who had caught her in the act, was furious. "How could you do this to Tom?" she screamed. "You're getting married in 2 weeks, and you're sleeping with some random guy." Rachel didn't even try to deny it. She burst into tears and confessed that she had been having an affair with the man. 4 months. She said that she loved Tom, but she couldn't help herself. Her friends were stunned. They had never seen Rachel act this way before. They tried to console her, but it was too late. The damage had been done. The next morning, Rachel's friends didn't know what to do. They had witnessed something that would change their friend's life forever. They knew that they had to tell Tom, but they didn't know how. When they finally mustered up the courage to call him, he was devastated. He couldn't believe that the woman he loved and trusted had cheated on him. He canceled the wedding and broke up with Rachel on the spot. Rachel was left alone to pick up the pieces of her shattered life. She had lost the man she loved, her friends, and her reputation. She knew that she had made a terrible mistake, but it was too late to fix it. Years went by, and Rachel tried to move on. She dated other men, but none of them could compare to Tom. She realized that she had lost the love of her life and regretted her mistake every day. In the end, Rachel learned a valuable lesson about love and trust. She knew that she had hurt the people